He looked me straight in the eye, like he was just asking me to pass. The Sultan said, "We don't have space for you anymore." I didn't argue. I just smiled, nodded, and walked away. What he didn't know was by the next morning, he'd be losing the house. Because I owned half of it. Let me back up. I moved in with almost nothing, just 2 old suitcases, a folded quilt from my childhood room, and a framed photo of my late husband, James. The day I gave my son Josh $180,000, a penny from James' life insurance, I didn't think twice. "It's your future," I told him. "It's for the family." He had just married Megan, and they were trying to buy a house in the suburbs. The bank said no to a full mortgage, so I stepped in. Megan hugged me like it was a movie scene and said, "We'll never forget this, Linda. You'll always have a home with us." Josh kissed my cheek and promised I'd never have to lift a finger again. The house was nice. Too nice, maybe. Everything was white and gray, spotless, cold. My room was technically the guest suite downstairs. No closet, a twin bed, and a bathroom without a shower. But I didn't complain. I was just happy to hear voices in the morning again. Josh brought me coffee those first few days. Megan showed me how to use their fancy thermostat, though she sighed every time I asked for help. We had dinner together. Once. Just once. By the second week, I started noticing things, small, sharp things, wrapped in smiles. Megan would joke to her friends that she lived with 2 kids and a grandma. Josh groaned when I asked if I could put a little shelf in the laundry room. Then things started changing. They put a padlock on the fridge upstairs. Megan said it was for meal prep. The modem got moved upstairs. My Netflix stopped working for 3 days. One night, I heard Megan on the phone saying, "She's sweet, but we need our own life. This isn't sustainable." I stayed quiet. I cooked. I folded their laundry. I wiped their counters. I smiled when Megan mentioned turning the downstairs den into a nursery one day. But then, one morning, as I walked to the kitchen to make tea, I heard them, Josh, my son, saying, "She won't leave if we keep being nice. We've got to push her out, make it so she leaves on her own." Megan's voice was colder. "She won't sign her share of the house over unless she feels unwanted. Make her uncomfortable." I froze. My own son, talking about me like I was some stubborn piece of furniture they didn't know how to move. I stared at the wallpaper I had helped pick out just 6 days earlier. That night, I made chicken Alfredo, Josh's favorite, but they didn't come down. Megan said she'd already eaten. Josh mumbled something about work. I ate alone, slow bites, my heart heavy. I thought about all the little things, soccer games, school projects, every birthday card he ever made me, tucked neatly in a shoebox I still kept in my suitcase. And now I was just in the way. The next morning, I was washing strawberries when Megan came in. Her arms were crossed. Her face was blank. "Too careful. Linda," she said, "we think it's time you looked for something more permanent. Your own space, for your comfort." Josh walked in a minute later, sipping coffee like it was any other day. "We don't have space for you anymore, Mom," he said. "You need to go." I turned to face them, wiped my hands on the dish towel, smiled, not big, not fake, just calm. "Okay," I said. "I'll be out by tonight." Megan blinked. Josh nodded like he'd just sent an email. "Thanks, Mom," he said, already turning away. I went to my room and packed everything I had, my clothes, the photo of James, and a paperback I'd been reading. That's all I needed. I never told them about the red folder I kept buried at the bottom of my suitcase. Inside was the house deed with my name right there next to Josh's. I owned 49% of that house. I didn't say goodbye. I just ordered a cab, got in, and left without looking back. But here's what they didn't know. That house wasn't just their dream anymore. It was about to become their nightmare, and I had just lit the fuse. The cab ride to the extended stay motel was quiet. I sat in the back, clutching that red folder like it was a newborn baby. I held it so tight, the corner left a mark on my hand. I had booked the motel room a week earlier, not because I knew this would happen, but because something inside me whispered, "Be ready." The motel was clean but kind of sad. Faded carpet, a lamp that flickered if you bumped it, and that lingering smell of fried onions that had soaked into the walls. I paid cash for 3 nights and told them I didn't need housekeeping. I didn't want anyone seeing how little I had. That night, I lay on the stiff mattress with the TV on mute, staring at the ceiling, holding the deed on my chest like it was a shield. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even shocked. I was just finished. The next morning, I used the motel's printer to make 5 copies of the deed, one for me, one in case I needed a lawyer, and 3 spares for anyone who doubted that I still had power. I was sipping my second cup of bad diner coffee when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in me said, "Pick up, Miss Carter." The voice said, "This is Brad from Carolina Private Lending. You're listed as a co-owner on a property at 124 Grayson Park Drive." My heart slowed. "Yes," I said carefully. "Is there a problem?" Brad cleared his throat. "There's been a default. Your son, Joshua Carter, took out a $95,000 loan using the house as collateral. He hasn't made payments in months. We sent 3 warnings. Foreclosure proceedings begin Friday." I didn't flinch. I asked questions, got the details. Turns out, Josh had started a marketing business that tanked 3 months in. Megan either didn't know or pretended she didn't. Both made my stomach twist. Brad was polite but direct. I had 2 choices: pay the loan myself or walk away and let the house be taken. I told him to send over the paperwork. When it arrived, I printed it out. Then I pulled out the same blue pen I used to sign Josh's very first school permission slip, and slowly, carefully, wrote my name on every line. Then I scanned it and sent it back. Brad called again soon after. "Foreclosure will move forward," he said. "Thank you, Mr. Brad," I said softly. Then I hung up, turned off my phone, and sat perfectly still. Josh was about to learn what it felt like to be left behind without warning. I didn't tell anyone. Didn't post about it. Didn't cry. Didn't call my sister or go ranting in a prayer group. I just sat there in that quiet motel room and breathed in the silence I'd been denied for so long. Later that afternoon, I walked 2 blocks to a little grocery store and bought a few simple things: peanut butter crackers, instant coffee, and a small bottle of wine. That night, I toasted myself, not for revenge, not because I won, but because I finally accepted something hard. I was never going to be treated like family again. So it was time I started treating myself like someone who mattered. The next morning at 8 a.m. my phone buzzed. It was a message from Josh. "Did you cancel something with the house? We just got a weird letter from a lender." I didn't reply. 3 hours later, another text. "There's a notice on the door. Call me." Still, I said nothing. At 3:17 p.m., Megan finally messaged, "Linda, please, we're confused. Just tell us what's going on." I turned off my phone. Not to be cruel, but to stay sane. Because if I heard one more fake plea from the woman who tried to erase me, I might forget that sometimes silence is the sharpest weapon of all. The foreclosure hit faster than I expected. Less than 48 hours after I signed the release, the sheriff's office taped a big, bright orange notice to their front door. I didn't have to see it myself. Megan posted about it in the neighborhood Facebook group. "Urgent. Our home is being targeted by a scam. Please send any resources for foreclosure attorneys." I actually laughed. For the first time in days, I sat in my little motel room, sipping motel coffee out of a paper cup, watching her meltdown unfold online. The comments flooded in: old coworkers, neighbors, even Josh's old friend Darren. "What happened? Can we help? I thought you guys were doing so well." Megan answered every message like a nervous politician, never quite telling the truth, just spinning it into vague stories about hardship and betrayal. She wrote, "We're being betrayed by someone we trusted, someone who should have protected us." That's when it stopped being funny. Because not long after, my phone started blowing up. People I hadn't heard from in years: my cousin Sharon, a woman from church, even James's sister. All of them asking the same thing: "Linda, what's going on?" They made it look like I had betrayed them, like I ruined their lives out of spite. Megan didn't mention the money I gave them. She didn't mention how they pushed me out of that house. She never told anyone that Josh took out a huge loan behind my back. Instead, she played the victim. And Josh, he joined in. He posted an old photo of the 2 of us, him as a little boy, smiling over an ice cream cone. The caption said, "It's hard when the people who raised you end up turning on you." No names, no details, just enough to make people feel bad for him. I knew who that post was: for our relatives, mutual friends, people who didn't know the whole story, people who would fill in the blanks with guilt and sympathy for him, not me. I could feel myself being erased, like I never mattered. For a moment, I thought about defending myself. I thought about posting the deed, the loan papers, the texts. I wanted to shout the truth, But then I remembered something my father used to say: don't wrestle with pigs, you both get dirty, and they like it. So I stayed quiet. Then the call came. It was Officer Reeves from the Sheriff's Department. Miss Carter, he said kindly, just letting you know there's a formal lockout scheduled at the Grayson Park address this Friday at 10 a.m. You're not required to be there since you've already signed off, but we wanted to let you know. I thanked him, hung up, and sat in silence that night. I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing it: Josh stumbling to the door in sweatpants, Megan crying on the porch, their things stuffed in garbage bags, and even then, I didn't feel happy. I didn't feel revenge. Just stillness. They had chosen every step of this path. Friday came. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed in my motel room and made oatmeal in the microwave. At 10:42 a.m., my phone buzzed. No caller ID, just a voicemail. I listened once, then again. It was Josh. His voice was sharp, low, angry. I don't know what you did, but we're out. Gone. You ruined us, Mom. I hope you're happy. That was it. No apology, no ownership, just blame like I had tripped a wire they had set themselves. At noon, Megan sent a longer message. Linda, if you wanted to hurt us, congrats. We're being evicted. I hope you sleep well tonight. You destroyed your family. That word "you're" stuck to me all day. Like I was the only one responsible. Like I didn't have the right to walk away from people who used me like a step stool. I turned off my phone, walked to the corner store, and bought a notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "Today, they lost everything." Then I kept writing. It helped me find my silence again. But they didn't stay quiet for long. 2 days later, Megan posted a slideshow on Instagram titled "When Family Betrays You." 10 slides, pastel colors, fancy fonts. Her version of the story: how they lovingly took in a grieving elderly parent and were blindsided by lies and manipulation. She even called it elder abuse. The comments poured in. People who didn't even know me. This is why boundaries matter. You're so strong, Megan. Sending love. You don't deserve this. I scrolled until I saw Josh's comment. You did everything right. You protected our future. She chose destruction. I stared at it not because it hurt, but because I couldn't believe how easily he could lie. There was a time he would cry if I scolded him for breaking a dish. Now he was turning me into a villain for strangers online. Still, I didn't reply. Not a word. But it wasn't over. The next morning, someone knocked on my motel room door. I froze. I've lived long enough to know sometimes it's better to wait. A second knock, then I opened the door just a crack. A woman in her 50s stood there, vaguely familiar. "Linda Carter," she asked. "You might not remember me. I'm Doreen. I work with the City Housing Board." I saw some of the posts. "I just wanted to hear your side." We sat in the motel lobby, sipping lukewarm coffee beside a vending machine that hummed like a fridge with a secret. I told her everything. Every dollar, every dinner, every insult I swallowed. She didn't take notes, she just listened. "I'm not pressed," she said gently. "I'm just tired of good people being dragged by influencers with matching throw pillows." Before she left, she handed me her card. "If you need help finding permanent housing, let me know. I've got some strings I can pull." It was the first bit of kindness I'd felt in weeks. That night, I opened my email. There was one titled, "Request for Interview, Charlotte Local Magazine." I didn't read it, just forwarded it to myself with a new subject line: "Hold on to this." But Megan didn't stop. She posted a TikTok standing in front of a U-Haul, mascara smudged, baby bump showing, holding a cardboard sign that read, "Evicted by my mother-in-law." It went viral. 80,000 views in 2 days. People started tagging news stations. One woman even offered to start a GoFundMe. And then, out of nowhere, my old church pastor texted, "Linda, what is going on? Can I call you?" That was the final straw. I pulled up the deed, the bank statement showing I gave them $180,000. The foreclosure confirmation from the lender. Megan's text: "Once she's gone, we can finally plan the nursery." I screenshotted it all and sent it to the pastor, my cousins, the church group chat. Still, I didn't add a single word. Just the truth. 5 minutes later, my niece replied, "Oh, so she lied to everyone." That was it. No arguments, no more defense, just silence. But this time, it was theirs. And I knew they saw it. The thread had broken. Later that night, I got a message from Josh. "Please call me. Just talk to me." 10 minutes later, "I know things got bad, but you're still my mom. I didn't reply, not because I hated him, but because sometimes bridges don't collapse in fire. They fall apart, piece by piece, each time someone you love decides you don't matter. I stared at the phone for a long time, then locked it and slid it into the drawer. I laid down on the bed and whispered into the quiet, "Still your mom, but not your fool." That night, I slept 8 full hours for the first time in months. I cracked the door open just an inch. 5 minutes, I said. He nodded, like a kid being given one last chance. We sat at opposite ends of the little round motel table by the window. I watched him quietly, waiting to see which version of himself would show up. After a few moments of fidgeting, he settled into the one he thought might work. "Sad and sorry. I messed up," he said. "I know I should have told you about the loan. I shouldn't have let Megan talk to you like that." I panicked. I didn't say anything, just let him talk. "She's pregnant," he added, like that explained everything. We were scared. I looked at him, really looked. For just a second, I saw the little boy who used to cry when I left for night shifts, but he wasn't that boy anymore. He was a grown man who threw me out of a home I helped pay for and turned me into the villain online. "I didn't come to argue," he said. "I was just wondering if you'd be willing to sign something. Nothing big, just a form to help us talk to the lender, try to get back on track." And that's when I knew he hadn't come for forgiveness. He'd come because he still saw me as a lever to pull when things went wrong. Not a mother, just a way out. "Show me," I said. He hesitated, then pulled out a manila folder and slid the paper across the table. I read it once, then again. It wasn't just a simple consent form. It was a partial power of attorney buried in legal wording that would give him limited control over the foreclosure process, which meant access to bank accounts, including mine. I set the paper down. "Get out," I said. He blinked. "Mom." "Ouchie." He stood slowly, like he still thought he could save the moment with one last line. "We're going to lose the baby's future, Mom." I looked him straight in the eye. "You already did." He left without another word. I locked the door behind him and stood there until my hands stopped shaking. Then I picked up the phone and called the front desk. "I'd like to switch rooms," I said. "Different floor." They didn't ask why. I packed everything in 15 minutes and moved before dinner. That night, I blocked Josh's number because I was angry, but because I needed to protect myself from the part of me that still wanted to believe he meant it when he said he messed up. The next morning, I walked to the housing board and handed Doreen the card she'd given me. She looked up and smiled gently, like she'd been waiting. "I want to move on," I told her. "Not just from them, from all of it." She didn't say, "I'm proud of you." She didn't say, "You're doing the right thing." She just reached into a drawer and slid a folder across the desk. The label read, "Senior Housing, Coastal Options," right on the first page. A 2-bedroom, condo near Wilmington, ocean access, a porch, rent I could afford on my pension. I circled it. "This one," I said. That evening, I received one last email from Megan. No hashtags, no emojis, just raw words. "I don't know what we're supposed to do now. We have nothing. I know you hate me, but think of the baby." I stared at the screen, those words pressing against my ribs like a hot iron. Then I closed the laptop, made myself a cup of tea, and watched the sun slip behind the parking lot. I didn't reply, not yet, because what I was planning next wasn't a reply, it was a reckoning. 3 days passed, no messages, no drama. Then, on a Sunday evening, just as I was sipping peppermint tea in pajama pants, there was a knock. I peeked through the peephole. It was Megan. She looked tired, hair a mess, holding a tiny baby wrapped in a soft pink blanket, a diaper bag slung over her shoulder like it weighed 100 pounds. "Linda," she said softly, "I'm not here to fight. We don't know what to do anymore." I didn't answer, so she kept going. "Josh is falling apart. We got kicked out of the rental. Failed a credit check, please. Can I come in?" I opened the door a few inches more. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes red. The baby stirred and let out a soft, sleepy sound. "Her name's Emily," Megan whispered. "She's yours too. Please don't shut us out." That part hit me harder than I expected. I hadn't known the baby's name. I hadn't even wanted to. I opened the door fully and let her in. She stepped inside slowly, like a guest who didn't know the rules anymore. She looked around the tiny motel room and gave a tired smile. "You still like it cold in here, huh?" I didn't answer. She sat down carefully on the bed, gently bouncing Emily in her arms. We really screwed up, she said. I said things I didn't mean. We were scared. We didn't know what we were doing. I nodded, not because I forgave her, but because I wanted her to keep talking. Josh is too proud to admit it, she went on, but he's drowning. We both are. Bank accounts frozen. 10 grand in penalties. Our phones are about to get cut off. I don't know where we're supposed to go. I watched her the whole time. I saw her lip tremble, her blinking speed up when she talked about being scared and left behind. That kind of loneliness, I understood. Then, something caught my eye. A brand tag still attached to the diaper bag. Posh Baby. I'd seen it in a magazine at the motel lobby. A designer bag. Retail price, over $900. That's new, I said, pointing. Megan hesitated. It was a gift. From a friend. Too quick. I didn't argue. Just stood and walked to the window. Outside, a black SUV idled by the curb. A rental car. Expensive. Clean. Not desperate. You came here to get something, I said quietly. She flinched. I came to ask for help. No, I said, turning around. You came to film something. She blinked. What are you talking about? Your phone, your purse. Whatever it is, I saw it when you sat down. You're recording this. Her mouth opened, then closed. We just wanted proof, she said softly, in case you tried to twist things. I stared at her for a long moment. Then I said it, calm but firm. Get out, Megan. She froze. Now. And take that overpriced gift shop diaper bag with you. Still, she didn't move. So I stepped forward closer than I've ever stood to her in Engrand, looked her dead in the eye. Let me be clear. I am not your storyline. I am not your villain. And I sure as hell am not your ATM. Now get out of my room before I call the police. She slowly picked up baby Emily, holding her close to her chest. She's your granddaughter, Megan whispered. No, I said. She's your daughter. Raise her better than you treat people. Megan didn't respond. She turned, stiff and silent, walked to the car, climbed in, and within seconds, they were gone. I closed the door, locked it, and sat down on the edge of the bed, letting the quiet wrap around me. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from adrenaline, because I knew what just happened. She had come to bait me, to get me angry on camera, to catch me saying something cruel so they could twist it, edit it, and post it online for sympathy points. And I hadn't given her anything. I'd stayed calm, but I wasn't done. The next day, I went to the courthouse and filed for a temporary restraining order. I brought everything, the texts, the visit, the manipulation attempt, even a screenshot showing the ridiculous retail price of that designer diaper bag. The clerk didn't blink. You're not the first, she said. You won't be the last. That night, I went back to my motel room, opened my notebook, and wrote one sentence. They brought a baby to play victim. I brought receipts. Then I turned the page and started listing names. People I trusted. People I didn't. People I owed absolutely nothing to anymore, because next time, I'd be ready and they'd never see it coming. 2 days later, the restraining order arrived in a thick envelope with a court seal. It slid under my motel room door like the final piece of a puzzle finally clicking into place. I didn't feel victorious. I felt prepared, the kind of calm that comes before a storm, not out of fear, but because you already boarded up the windows. I made 5 copies, one for the motel, one for the local police, one for Doreen at the housing board, one for me, and one I mailed Megan and Josh's last known address, with a sticky note on top that said, "You wanted legal, you got it." That night, I finally replied to the interview request from Charlotte local magazine. I didn't ask for money. I didn't pitch a dramatic story. I just sent them the facts, the deed, the $180,000 wire transfer, the foreclosure confirmation, the texts, and yes, Yvonne, a photo of that ridiculous diaper bag. The subject line on my email: "Since they want to talk, let's talk." The editor called the next morning. Her voice was steady, kind, but serious. "We believe you," she said. "Would you be willing to go on record?" I told her yes, as long as they included one line from me at the very top. This is not revenge. This is clarity. The article ran that Sunday. 3 full pages titled, "When Help Becomes a Weapon, One Mother's Account of Financial Betrayal." It didn't go viral. It didn't break the internet, but it made waves where it mattered in Charlotte. People started talking. Not gossip, real conversation. The same Facebook group where Megan had once cried eviction. was now full of posts about family, housing, entitlement, and adult kids taking advantage of their parents. My name came up not as a villain, and not even as a victim, just as a person. Someone who had been erased and wrote herself back in. But that wasn't the moment I knew things had changed. That moment came the next Friday, when I stopped by a local coffee shop and saw Josh. He was sitting alone in the corner, hunched in a hoodie, staring into his cup like it might hold the answers. He didn't see me right away. Then he looked up. Our eyes met. He didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't blink. He just looked, and in that look, I saw it. Not regret, not sadness, just distance. The kind of look you give a stranger you used to know. I kept walking. That night, he emailed me. No subject line, just a short message. I read the article. I won't contact you again. I'm sorry you felt like you had no choice. Not sorry for what he did. Sorry that I felt like I had to act. I archived it. Didn't reply. The next morning, the motel manager knocked and handed me a stack of forwarded mail. At the bottom, an envelope from a real estate agency and a note from Doreen. You've been approved. Keys are waiting. I opened the listing. 2-bedroom condo. 2nd floor. A quiet place near Wilmington, with a view of the water. Rent was just under budget. Move-in date, next Friday. I stood there holding the letter and realized something. I had stopped checking over my shoulder. I'd stopped flinching when my phone buzzed. I'd stopped doubting my right to exist without apology. Later that night, I updated my will. Josh's name came off. Everything now went to a domestic abuse shelter, a literacy program, and the animal rescue I used to volunteer for. Then, I sent one last email to my lawyer with clear instructions. If he ever challenges this, send them everything. All of it, publicly. No reply came back. I didn't need one. That weekend, I got one final message, a number I didn't recognize, but I knew it was Megan. Just 4 words, we lost everything. Congrats. I read it once, then I deleted it. No reply, no reaction, nothing left to say. That evening, I packed up my things not because I was running away, but because I had finally stopped running at all. They started this story by telling me there was no space for me. They ended it by proving I never needed their space in the first place. The condo was smaller than I expected but brighter. Sunlight spilled through the windows and danced on the clean white walls. Everything felt open and new. I stood in the doorway for a long moment, just breathing it in. No yelling. No passive-aggressive footsteps upstairs. No fake apologies echoing through thin walls. Just peace. My peace. The movers were late, so I carried in the essentials myself. My red folder, a framed photo of James, and one small suitcase. The rest could wait. I made a cup of tea with the old kettle that came with the unit and stepped out onto the little balcony. The ocean wasn't visible, but I could hear it, and that was enough. I left my phone on silent all week, didn't check social media, didn't try to explain myself to anyone. I just unpacked one drawer at a time, filled the fridge with food I liked, watered 2 little plants I'd picked up at a roadside stand. On Wednesday, I took a walk along the boardwalk. Nobody stared. Nobody whispered. Just people living their lives. I passed a bookstore, a pier, and a little seafood shack where a woman my age was painting seashells at a table. She looked up and smiled. Pick one, she said, whichever calls to you. I picked a blue one, edged in silver. Good choice, she said. That one's for people who've just let go of something heavy. I smiled, slipped it into my coat pocket, and walked on. I set it down on the kitchen counter beside my keys, a small seashell, blue with silver edges. I gave it a name in my head, Peace. Days passed, then a week, then 10. I started to settle into a rhythm. Coffee at 8, walk at 10. Journaling at 3. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, I took an art class in the rec room. The instructor's name was Walter. He was in his 70s, wore suspenders, and told the worst jokes I'd ever heard. But he remembered my name by the 2nd day, and that meant something. One afternoon, he came by to look at my canvas. He studied it for a moment, then said softly, "You paint like someone who's lived through something." I smiled and replied, "That's because I have," and I had. Every word was true. I didn't talk about Josh, not to Walter, not to anyone in the class. That chapter of my life was closed. Like a drawer I had no reason to open again, until the letter came. It was handwritten, in Josh's messy scrawl, postmarked from somewhere outside Charlotte. No return address. Inside were just 4 lines. I know I can't undo what I did. I don't expect anything from you. I just want you to know I'm trying. I named her Emily Linda Carter. I read it twice, folded it carefully. Then I placed it in the same drawer where I kept the now useless house deed. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just let the words sit where they belonged in the past. Later that evening, I walked to the beach barefoot. I stood in the cool sand, listening to the waves roll in and out for over an hour. I thought about the little girl named after me. I thought about the man who used to be my son. And I thought about the boy who once picked flowers from the neighbor's yard and cried when I told him stealing was wrong. That boy was gone. But maybe, somewhere out there, a better version of him was being born from the wreckage he caused. And that, I decided, was no longer my burden to carry. I turned around and walked home. My condo was lit up with soft, golden light. I curled up on the couch with a book and a blanket. No drama, no messy emails, no family guilt or fake apologies, just the quiet, simple joy of choosing peace over permission. Right before bed, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, no message. I let it fade without touching it. Then I whispered the 5 words I had carried in my heart since the day they pushed me out. No space here either. Goodbye. To this day, I don't know where Josh and Megan ended up. Maybe they figured things out. Maybe they didn't. All I know is, I'm happy now. And for the first time in a very long time, that's enough.